Hi everybody, it's James here from Centurion Running. We've made lots of these videos in the past that are specifically aimed at giving you guys the information you need around mandatory kit, trail and ultra races, plus the nice to haves or really important things to have on top, and then how to pack them into your race vest. The first one we made was over a decade ago in 2013, and things have evolved a long way since, but the principles are still the same. And this video is designed to be a more generic overview of how to grab a race vest, where roughly to put the mandatory kit items into that pack for them to fit comfortably, and just to think about really what you need to carry on in training and on race day to be safe, successful, and to enjoy the sport as much as possible. We have this video in several places around our general website, but also at the Centurion Ultra Running store. And what you'll find on the store website is a more prescriptive list under each of the distances that we offer at Centurion Running. So if you click on events within centurionultrarunningstore.com, you'll find 50k, 50 mile, 100 mile specific kit lists. So if you're interested or running in one of our distance events, head to that area of the website and you'll find a more curated list of what we recommend to be the very best products in the moment for any one of the distances you're taking on. We've had tremendous feedback over the years from people coming in store to us here, also online, about those lists, because the idea is to cut through the learning curve and cut through a lot of the jargon around these products and bring you, as I say, the most up-to-date list from our highly curated range. So this is stuff we use ourselves as runners in training and racing, and we want to deliver that stuff to you. So without further ado, I'll grab a couple of race vests and show you guys how roughly you should think about packing mandatory gear and beyond for your trail and ultra races. So in front of me now is all of the gear we consider as crucial kind of core mandatory equipment, or things that aren't on mandatory kit lists but are kind of essentials really in terms of your safety and enjoyment of your training and racing. Now, I always caveat these kit videos with the same thing. Everybody is an N of one. Everybody has their own individual preferences and requirements around kit. Some of you are going to be running at the front of the pack, super light and super fast. Some of you are going to be out for a much longer period of time towards the back of the pack, and your needs and requirements will change along with that. So what I'm going to show you is just a broad spectrum and a broad stroke of how to pack your race vest, what that might look like, but just dial everything in to your own needs. And remember, use this stuff in training. Pack your pack that you're going to use on race day exactly as you will start the race with it, with full flasks in the front or the back if you're using a reservoir, with your race day nutrition on board, because the fit and feel of these race vests and how everything works together changes dramatically as you take items away or add them back in again. So if we look at the race vest first, there is basically a really great race vest option from almost every brand in the trail and ultra space now. What you'll notice is there are very small differences between them, but the general setup is the same. In terms of literage or capacity, you really need to be looking at something between 3 and 15 litres for your trail and ultra race. Now, as I say, it's a really broad spectrum because some people are going to carry very little for a 50k race, for example. Some people may even get away with just a waistband for that. Whereas if you're racing a cold weather 100-mile race, you definitely need towards the upper end of that capacity. But I've just grabbed a few of the options off the shelf that we have here at Centurion Running. Some of the race vest manufacturers we have include Ultimate Direction, Instinct, Salomon, La Sportiva, Montaigne, Raid Light, the list goes on and on. All brilliant products. But in terms of what I'm thinking about for 50k to 100 mile, it's for me roughly in the 8 to 12 litre range, so somewhere in the middle of that 3 to 15 that I just mentioned. And I'll just show you some of the similarities before I show you how I would put my kit into any one of these race vests. So if we look at the back of a race vest first, this is just a Salomon Advanced Skin 12. You'll notice a very deep pocket, which I would put a dry bag inside, which would contain the kit that I'm probably not going to use unless I'm in an emergency situation or the weather gets really poor. A bungee pocket in the bottom where I could stuff, for example, a waterproof jacket, some extra hydration, a base layer, bits and pieces that I might want access to on the go. 2 soft flask pockets in the front that will probably take up to about a 500ml soft flask is common. A couple of storage compartments up top, and then some other zip and side storage compartments which are good for particularly nutrition, headlamps, gloves and hats that are coming on and off as you race. And if I just grab the Instinct 12 litre, you'll notice a similar setup. Deep pocket in the back, all the way down the side there. A little extra additional zip pocket in the back. A long bungee pocket, again, good for a jacket. In the front, 2 soft last pockets and some other zip compartments for bits and pieces. And finally, exactly the same thing with our La Sportiva 10 litre here. Long bungee pocket at the back, big stuff pocket, and then 2 soft last pockets in the front. So they're just 3 of many items that we sell that are within that range, and that's where it comes down to individual fit and comfort. So come into the shop and see us, or try a range of things on if you want off the website. Get something that fits well, that's comfortable, that doesn't cut in on your neck in terms of a race vest, but most importantly, practice packing it with the kit that you're going to store within it on race day so that you know it sits comfortably for your training and racing needs. So I've mentioned the back of the pack and what to store within that. Essentially, that's the stuff that I'm intending not to need or use unless the weather's very poor or I'm in an emergency situation. And this where having a couple of smaller dry bags comes into its own. So first off, a lot of races mandate that you have a spare base layer, sometimes top and bottoms, in a separate dry bag. And this is exactly what is meant by that. A separate dry bag. This is a 1 litre dry bag from Xped, which is fantastic. You can roll the top down and compress that down to a very small size. Now that layer is for use in an emergency situation, e.g. you've dropped out of the race or you've had an accident on the trail and need to keep yourself warm until rescue arrives. That's going in my dry bag because I'm not intending to use that unless it's an emergency. I'm going to carry a first aid kit. I'm going to carry a whistle. Sometimes you need to carry a compass as well, but that would probably go in the front because you're more likely to need it. Some races mandate a survival blanket. Some mandate a survival bag. Essentially a survival bag, or this heat shield bag from Life Systems, is a large foil blanket you can get inside and is far more comprehensive than a blanket. I'd always recommend carrying a bag instead of a blanket if you can. I'm going to pack both for argument's sake for right now. I'm doing a race where I'm not expecting it to be too hot or too cold. I'll probably pack my gloves in the back, but not my hat. I'll have that in the front. And then finally, I've got a spare headlamp battery. If my race is going on into the night, I'll be looking to have that in case of emergency only. I've then got all my kit that I'm not planning to use during the race stowed nicely in a dry bag, which I can then slip into the rear of the pack. And it's important that the soft stuff within that dry bag sits against the small of your back, and you pack it as evenly as possible because you don't want anything sharp or solid jutting into your back and causing chafing as you're running. So I'm using the Instinct bag, but this could be any race vest that you've chosen. And I'm slotting that down into the main storage compartment, zipping that up so it sits nicely and is soft against my back. I've mentioned the long bungee compartments you tend to see in most race vests these days, and into that I'm going to put my waterproof jacket, and most of them fold into their own top pocket now, which is quite cool. So if that's the case, I'll keep that nicely folded up in there. That way I can reach into my race vest as I'm running and get that out. Sometimes that will fit over the top of a race vest, sometimes it won't. Don't buy a jacket that's too big just to specifically go over a race vest. Some brands make a version of a race waterproof that have actual extra capacity in the back to go over a race vest, but I'd recommend buying a jacket that fits first, and if it goes over a full race vest, that's definitely a secondary. I'm also going to put my waterproof trousers in the back there. Now, by virtue of what those products are, they are of course waterproof. So that pocket there has less weather protection than the main compartment, but that's okay because those items are actually waterproof in and of themselves, and I'm likely to need them more than the mandatory kit that's in the back of the pack. So whatever race vest I've got on, I'm aiming for waterproofs in the stow pocket or the stuff pocket across the bottom, with the mandatory kit in the dry bag in the zip up back compartment. So if we look next to the front of the pack, every race vest has 2 soft flask compartments. Now you can use a bladder with most race vests and backpacks. Bladders are suboptimal on 2 levels. Firstly, it makes the back of the vest harder to pack, there's less space. Secondly, you can't always monitor how much fluid you've gone through, and it's quite important to be able to see that. So soft flasks have become really important. These are 500ml ones. Every race vest will take at least 350, if not 500ml soft flasks in the front. fill these up and use them in training full, because they weigh obviously a kilo full and can completely change how the vest feels and fits, and the chafing that you can get from a poorly fitting vest is terrible. So just make sure you use them full in training. Now there's some other pockets on this race vest. Everyone is slightly different, but with this setup, I'd be looking to put nutrition, at least some of my nutrition, say front right. There's 2 natty zip up pockets here that I might use for litter and or the soft cup. Now the cup, you might be somebody who's doing a longer race and wants hot drinks, in which case you consider carrying a more sturdy silicone cup that you can pop out, stand up. It isn't going to burn yours or the volunteer's hand. Or if you're just planning on having cold drinks at a checkpoint, take one of these lighter weight silicone cups that you can stuff and stow really easily. Now, headlamp's an interesting one, because if you're in a longer race, you're certainly going to need it. But if you're in a shorter race, for example, a 50k, you almost certainly wouldn't. But I'd be looking to put this in the front left if I was doing a race where the headlamp would be coming out relatively early into the event. Don't love carrying a headlamp. If I don't need to, I'd rather it was in a drop bag or on my head. But it could either go in the front left pocket or on the back, depending on my needs. So I've got my flask in the front, nutrition ready to go, headlamp in case I need it. I might even pop my hat in that front left pocket as well, just as a really good thermo regulator. Mandatory kit that I'm intending not to use in the dry bag in the back, and my waterproofs stuffed in this easy access pocket along the bottom. Final consideration regards mandatory kit and things that you're likely to want to have. I've got here a quiver, my poles, and also a waistband. Now a waistband, and this is the naked band that we stock, that's probably our biggest selling product actually, gives you a lot more option, a lot more versatility. In training, this product's absolutely sensational, because for most of your training runs, you can get everything you need within this band. So whether it's a phone, gels, soft flask up to 500 ml, even a lightweight windproof or waterproof, it gives you that storage capacity. But alongside of a race vest, it allows you to get some of your nutrition weight, your phone, maybe some litter and another piece of mandatory kit off of your back, distributing the weight more evenly across your body, and works wonderfully. And to boot, these often have, like the naked band, pole holders. So if I am carrying poles, I can easily stow them across my back, and that takes the weight and the faff away from trying to store them on a race vest. If I am going to store my poles on a race vest, I tend to try to use a quiver. This is the Salomon one, compatible with the Salomon bags, but most manufacturers have their own quiver compatible with their own race vests. Certainly true of Instinct and La Sportiva that you've already seen. And they sit ideally diagonally, but they can sit straight down the side of the pack with the fixings and allow you to get your poles stowed away when you're not using them directly over your shoulder like that. So once again, I hope that's helpful at summarising the rough mandatory kit that you require for ultra trail racing, and the nice to haves on top. Gives you a really good idea of how to think about packing your bag. And as I've said before, head to centurionultrarunnerstore.com, click on events, and then 50k, 50 mile, 100 mile to see the more curated, more prescriptive kit lists of what we recommend to be the very best products on the market at any given time. Remember, most crucially though, whatever you're using, however you intend on using it, get it out in training, pack your bag as you will have it exactly on race day morning, get out in training with it, have a good go, get used to the fit and feel of it, adjust things around. But when you arrive on race day, there's no nasty surprises. You know where everything is, how to use it, how to access it, and your racing will be that much more safe, sustainable, and enjoyable. Thanks for listening.